From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
Welcome back. I'm Paul Gigot with Kyle Peterson and Bill McGurn here on Potomac Watch, and we're talking about the presidential debate on Tuesday evening. Foreign policy didn't come up a lot, but it did come up some, and let's listen to an exchange on Ukraine.
That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell, but after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left, I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III.
I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up.
Well, Kyle, Trump was also asked by the moderator whether or not he wanted Ukraine to win the war, and he did not answer that question. Had a couple of chances, but did not. Who got the better on foreign policy?
I tend to think it was kind of a wash. I think that not saying that he preferred the defenders of Ukraine to beat Russia's invasion, Vladimir Putin's invasion, I don't think was a proud moment for the Republican Party. On the other hand, Trump had a better line when he was going after the Biden-Harris administration and saying that they canceled the Keystone XL pipeline for U.S. energy, and yet they waived sanctions on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline that allowed Russia to pump more natural gas into Europe and use energy more as a weapon. I think Trump was better on Afghanistan. If you look at the polling, the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, in which American service members died guarding the civilian airport there after the pullout of Bagram Air Base, I think that was a clear drop in President Biden's polling that he has never recovered from. If you look at the Real Clear Politics averages. On the other hand, Kamala Harris said, hang on, you were the one who negotiated these pullout deals with the Taliban while cutting out the Afghan government. And then you invited or wanted to invite the Taliban to Camp David, all of which also happens to be true. And President Trump, to my eye, was not prepared enough with the specifics to effectively respond to that and say how he would have ended the war in a different way.
Let's talk about the impact of this debate. It may be the only one we have. The Harris campaign came out immediately on Tuesday night and said, let's have another one. We'd like that. And Trump had a response to that on Wednesday morning. Let's listen.
Here's a story. When two fighters fight, and one loses, the first thing they do is ask for a debate, or they ask for a fight. So in this case, a debate. So we had two people. They lost very badly. The first thing they did is ask for a debate, because that's what when a fighter loses, he says, I want a rematch. I want a rematch. They always, the losing person, the fighter, the debater, they always ask for a rematch. I won the debate according to C-SPAN by a lot. According to every single, I think we had 14 polls that we sent to you. Everyone had me winning the debate.
So,
when
Mr.
you
President,
win the debate, I don't know that I want to do another debate.
Right.
Classic Trump. I think he knows he lost the debate, and I think he knows he lost the debate because he rolled out into the spin room right after it to try to, I think, make himself the focus of attention and not on what I think was a really bad performance by Trump overall. And then he's now using his familiarity with fights, boxing matches. He's a boxing fan, to suggest that she's the one who thinks she needs a rematch. I think the Harris camp were right to think that they hit Donald with a TKO here, and they'd be happy to do it again. Bill, the question in my mind is whether this is going to affect the election. Debates are rarely definitive. I mean, the only one that I think really made a huge difference to the outcome was Ronald Reagan's in 1980 against Jimmy Carter. It was late in the campaign, and the polls just blew out after that debate in Reagan's favor. The question for me in this one is, did Harris make a good enough impression with voters who don't know her that they said, you know what, I think I can take a risk on her and pull some of those undecided voters to her side? I think that's the big question.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was necessarily her goal. I think her goal was to try to get under Donald Trump's skin, let him be the focus of the debate, and not embarrass herself, not give any moments. That's why it was probably very smart for her not to answer the question, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Whatever answer she gave would probably have gone viral. So I think she accomplished her goals. Like people were, a lot of people were expecting her to really fall flat. Her previous interviews on things, she's not been able to answer on her feet. I think of the Lester Holt interview that focused on the border back in 2021. So I think her strategy is working. If I were the Harris campaign, I know people complain that she doesn't talk to the press, won't give a press conference stuff. Why should she? The press isn't demanding it, and she's as tight as she is in the polls probably because of it. I think the moment she gets specific about policy, which she didn't have to do last night, she loses votes. So I think overall, I can't speak for a swing state voter in Pennsylvania or Michigan, but if you were watching, you looked at a woman that was on the stage for Donald Trump, obviously well prepared. You can say Lawrenceburg Harris, but she delivered them well and held her own. And I think that's what she was out to accomplish.
Kyle, if you're Donald Trump and his campaign, do you do a second debate? I talked to somebody when I asked that question to this morning, said, well, can't be any worse than this one. And this was a Trump supporter.
If you're in Trump HQ, I think it depends on whether you think that he will perform better in a second debate. If a second debate happens a week and a half before the November election, I don't think you want a repeat of this performance on Tuesday, which would drive away those suburbanites and swing voters. But if you think that you can get Trump to stay on his message and bring up some topics about the Biden administration's record and Harris's past positions in a way that he failed to do last night, if you think you can get him to do the prep.
But why would you think that? I mean, everybody knew what he had to do. This wasn't a complicated intellectual endeavor. I mean, they all knew it, and they all told him.
True, but he had some overconfidence, I think, especially driven by Harris's refusal to sit for media interviews, that she was not capable of putting on a sustained 90-minute unscripted performance. That he may have thought, I do prep for this every day when I hold my rallies, when I give interviews, but it's a different kind of media event. And so perhaps if we get a move in the polling toward Kamala Harris in the next few days and in the next few weeks, if he starts to feel like he is an underdog again in this election, maybe he will buckle down and provide the kind of debate performance that he did a pretty good job, I think, in that first debate with Joe Biden at restraining himself.
If you're a Republican, what you just described is the triumph of hope over experience. And I think it's a real question whether it would be they want to take the risk to put Trump in the ring with Harris one more time. Bill, I just want to raise one issue which a lot of our listeners will want us to address, which is the moderators and their fairness. Trump is saying that it was a 3-on-1 debate because they ganged up on him. There's no question they only fact-checked him. They didn't fact-check Kamala Harris, though she had many egregious misstatements as well. I guess my response to that is it may be true that they were more helpful to Harris, but he's the guy that agreed to the debate with ABC.
Yeah, I agree with you. And also, I watched the pre-debate hour-long interview with the ABC news team, and it was very stacked. They weren't even pretending at that point. I think the most egregious thing for me watching it, Kamala Harris said many things. She brought up Charlottesville, the fake story that Donald Trump called Nazis marching in Charlottesville very fine people. Even Snopes, a liberal fact-checking site, has discredited that. Joe Biden brought it up in his debate on June 27th, wasn't corrected. 2 weeks later, gave a follow-up interview to Lester Holt, brought it up again. He wasn't corrected. And now Kamala Harris has brought it up. They know they can bring these things up. Democratic candidates know they're not going to be pressed too hard. Now, all that said, I think what you were saying is right. That wasn't the reason Trump lost. Trump actually does pretty well when the team is stacked against him. He plays off of that. how they're doing. And he didn't do it last night, but he has done before. I think they were an irritating factor, but they probably created sympathy for Trump. And if he called it out and everything, he might have had a better night. But really, the reason he lost is that he was baited into going off topic for him about his past, and not his past record, his past statements, like the statement on John McCain and so forth. And he was on bad territory for him, and that's why he lost.